What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Just taking a walk, getting my steps in today, and I thought I would share with you guys an arm workout which I did a couple of months back. So as you guys will see, I have long hair now, scruffy hair, and back then I had short hair. I would always select 3 exercises for my triceps and then 3 exercises for my biceps. So basically I'm going to be talking about this workout that I did. So first and foremost, when I train arms, I always start with my triceps, and the reason why I start with my triceps is because they're bigger, right? So I think like 70% of your arm is basically your tricep and only 30% is your bicep. And so the bigger the muscle, the more energy it's going to require. So it makes sense to start with the triceps instead of the biceps. But again, this is preference. If you want to start with your biceps, then you can, it's fine. And I also always start with a cable exercise, right? Rather than starting with free weights. And the reason for this, there's 2 reasons. The first reason is it warms up my elbows. Okay, so I noticed in the past when I start with free weights, what happens is there's a lot of tension on my elbows, and a couple of days after I start having pain on my elbows, and I ended up having tendonitis once, and that was because I was doing a lot of free weight exercises when I was doing triceps. And so I switched over to starting with cable exercises. So number 1, it warms up and lubricates my joints, so in this case my elbows. And then the second reason is there is constant tension on the muscle through both the concentric and eccentric phase of the motion. So when you use free weights, so for example dumbbell overhead extension, there's a lot of tension when you are lifting the weight upwards. But when you're lowering the weight, because gravity is assisting you in the lowering part of the motion, there's not a lot of tension, all right? The difference is when you are using cables, there's constant tension on your muscles through both motions. So when you are lowering the weight, in this case when you are pressing down, but also when you are going back into the starting position of the exercise. So the concentric, which will be the press down, and the eccentric or negative part of the motion, which is when you are going back to the start of the exercise. I was reading this paper it's not a paper, it's actually the book by Brad Schoenfeld. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And in the book, one of the main contributors of muscle growth is mechanical tension. It's actually the biggest contributor to muscle growth or hypertrophy is mechanical tension. And basically what that means is the amount of tension that a muscle goes through increases the potential for that muscle to grow. When you're using cables, of course, this then allows that process to occur. This is not to say that you shouldn't use free weights. You can use free weights, but in my opinion and in my experience, and also with training several clients, using cables to start your exercises is better. Also just helps with your mind to muscle connection. Using free weights is really a difficult process, especially if you're a beginner. If you intermediate or advanced, then it's easier to get a mind to muscle connection. But starting off, I think using cables is your best bet. Then second exercise I moved over to is the single arm dumbbell extension. Now, there are 2 ways that you can perform this exercise. So first way is using your single arm, which I prefer, or just wait for this truck to pass. Okay, as I was saying, there are 2 ways to perform this exercise, right? So the first way is overhead using your single arm, which is a unilateral exercise. I prefer using it this way because it allows me to train my triceps individually, but you can also do them. I'm gonna swap my arms, yo. this arm is tired. You can also do this exercise using both of your arms. Using both arms is going to allow you to lift more weight, okay, because you're using both sides of your body instead of one. But my issue with this one is that it can lead to muscle imbalances. So I found that my left side of my body doesn't have the same strength or flexibility or motion compared to the right side. So usually when I do exercises that require both sides of the body, my right side compensates the lack of strength from my left side of my body. So basically I prefer doing this unilateral movement using one side of my body. Again, this is just preference. If you want, you can use both hands. Now, why this exercise? The reason why I'm choosing this exercise is because when you are doing a press down, that works the short side of your tricep, so the outer sweep of your tricep. But doing this overhead extension is going to work the long head, all right, the inner portion of your tricep, and i.e. long head is the bigger portion of your tricep, okay, but it tends to be neglected. So most of the time I've seen people doing a lot of cable extensions or cable presses, whatever, but they don't do overhead extensions, and you find that they have a big sweep on the outside of their tricep, but when you look on the inner part when you look on the inner part, it's not as developed. So that's why I do this exercise. So single dumbbell extension overhead. All right, moving on to the third exercise is the dumbbell kickbacks. Now this exercise, I like it because again, it's a unilateral movement, so working each tricep individually, and it's also quite a difficult exercise, so you have to focus when you do this exercise. But what I like most is you are extending your arm and you're getting full contraction of the tricep. So it's just a good exercise, not too much pressure on your joints. You get a good pump as well, and also because you're doing it one arm at a time, you're not really going to be able to lift a lot of weight. Well, I found I'm not able to lift a lot of weight, and so that means that I have to focus more and I have to be more strict on my form. And overall, just for me, this is just better and prevents, the risk of injury. All right, moving over to biceps. Again, I also do 3 exercises. Your arms are the smallest part of your body, so you don't need to do a lot of exercise. I see like people doing so many different exercises when they train their arms. I'm like, guys, your arms are not that big, okay? You just doing extra exercises is not really going to do much, but each to their own. Anyways, I did 3 exercises, so similar to triceps. I start with cable curls. And again, 2 reasons here. Number 1, as I mentioned, constant tension on my bicep. I will from time to time swap out my standing cable curls with barbell curls, sorry. But again, when you are doing barbell curls, there's tension in the concentric part of the motion, but not as much in the eccentric part. Right now, you can do negative reps, or in this case, like when you lower the weight, try and lower it slowly, as you guys can see in the video. But as I mentioned, I think that cables are more efficient, especially when you're starting off with your workout. So I do about each exercise, I do about 3 or 4 sets, and with arms I tend to go between 12 and 15 reps. So I don't like to go below that, just for preference. Again, I like getting an arm pump over getting strength on my biceps and triceps. All right, moving on, my second exercise is the seated dumbbell curls. So similar to triceps, right, I move over from using both arms in an exercise into using my arms individually. So again, my left side is weaker than my right side, so doing these as a unilateral exercise just helps to balance everything out. I choose to do these seated because what I found is when I am standing, I tend to cheat. So lifting the weight, I tend to use a lot of momentum and also use my lower back to give me that that extra push. I'm not saying that cheating is wrong, okay? I think there is room for cheating when you're lifting heavy, but I'm a stickler for form and I try to perfect my form as much as possible. Now, should you train to failure? I think it also depends on the program. So if you're following a program that says you shouldn't train to failure, then no, you don't have to. But I was in the zone, and I love to train to failure when it comes to arms. So as you can see here, the last couple reps are extremely difficult, and yes, my form tends to go off a little at the end, but sometimes those extra few reps are necessary. So yeah, basically that's exercise 2, right? And then the third exercise, which I always finish off with, is the concentration curl. So in this exercise, my elbows are right up against my leg. There's no ways that you can cheat when you do this exercise, and the reason why I like to finish off with this exercise is because it completely isolates your bicep. So there's no other muscles that are assisting you when you're trying to lift or curl up the dumbbell. So I always finish off with this. And another reason why I like doing this exercise is because I am able to use the other side of my body, so my other hand, to lift up the weight when I reach muscular failure. So basically I'm able to get a few extra reps in, so a few negative reps. All right, I lower the weight as slow as possible. This nigga's smoking ganja in front of me. Anyways, what was I saying? I'm able to get a few extra reps in, so a few negative reps. And again, the more reps or the more hard reps that you can get in an exercise, the more potential you have to grow your muscles. So basically that's the conclusion of my arm workout. The 3 exercises that I did for my triceps and 3 exercises that I did for my biceps. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.